Hi everyone, it's Steve Whiting with StreetText. So everybody wants sellers. They want to get in front of sellers as quickly as possible and get those listings. And we all know why. Obviously when you get a listing, you don't have to worry about the buy side. The buyers are either going to come to you or you're going to find your own buyers through that listing that then you can ideally even double end that listing, and it happens all the time. So everybody wants the listings, especially in really hot markets where there's low inventory and there's so many buyers. It's hard because you're like, I don't need another buyer, I need a listing. So everybody wants listings, and I completely understand that and get that. So there's really two approaches of how to get sellers, and I want to show you a shortcut if you really want to find sellers fast, what to do and how to get in front of them. We can actually shorten the time from typically 2 to 6 months to 2 weeks to 5 weeks. So it's a significant shortcut if you would like to get in front of sellers quickly. And this is super valuable, but first I want to let you know why we specifically target Facebook and why we encourage you to do the same. So, a lot of realtors will say things like, the leads are going to be better if they're on Realtor.com or Zillow because people are actively searching for property, and that completely makes sense. What sometimes realtors don't understand is that where people came from when they went to Realtor.com was Facebook, and when they leave Realtor.com, they go back to Facebook. So Facebook is just where most of the page views in the internet happen, is specific on Instagram or Facebook. And also everybody's basically there. From the groups, your neighborhood groups to, any sort of community group or shop and swaps or whatever it may be, everybody spends the majority of their time, and they check it multiple times a day and spend typically about 9 to 16 minutes on average per day on Facebook. So that's where everybody's at. It's just a matter of getting your right message in front of them at the right time. The other reason that I think Facebook is so powerful for real estate agents today, if it's done right, is the combination of all of the branding elements. So, you can think of a traditional bus ad or a bench ad or a newspaper ad, any sort of ad that you'd want to basically run out and do. You can do all of those in one campaign on Facebook, because when you're going after the lead gen side, you're also branding yourself in front of that community on an ongoing basis. For the amount of people that are going to see your ad, they're going to see it way more in Facebook for a much better price than if you're running, say, a bench ad or a bus ad or any of those other things. So you get to combine all of those traditional elements, especially from a branding perspective, in when you're running ads, specifically lead gen on Facebook. One of the unfortunate mistakes that a lot of realtors make is if they are trying to work with a company to generate leads on Facebook, and I understand why, because there's a lot to do and there's a lot to understand. Some of these companies won't put your brand front and center. They put their brand front and center. So when you're paying for all of those impressions, you're paying for all those people to see your ads, they're actually not seeing your ad, they're seeing some sort of generic brand that you don't even own or have no control over. And I think that's a big shame, because if you combine both the branding element with the successful lead gen, people are just going to see you over and over and over and over again. And they always say that people are only going to have a mind share for the top 3 realtors in their community. And you want to be one of those top 3, and Facebook is a wonderful way of getting that mind share. But if you're doing it through a company that isn't giving you any branding, you're completely losing out on that opportunity. So that's a big shame. So I want to show you the 2 strategies and how to go about doing them and why the second one is so quick. Both of these work great. In fact, we encourage both. They're quite straightforward to set up, but the shortcut one is quite interesting. So the traditional model is you're going to appeal specifically to a seller around the value that a seller is going to look for. And there's a number of things sellers are going to be after. When they're in the mindset of trying to sell their home, they're going to be thinking about, how much is my home worth, seller's guides. These are the things that are going to initially bring those sellers in. They're going to pay attention to the ad when they see it on Facebook. They're going to click through, or they're going to activate a lead ad, and they're going to go through and become a lead that you can begin to work with. The unfortunate thing in that approach sometimes is that some agents are hoping that they're going to those clients are going to be super motivated today, and sometimes they are. Sometimes you just get lucky, you get some sellers that want to list today, and that does happen. Although a lot of them require a fair bit of nurturing and value, continual value being added to the sellers. And for the realtors that do this approach and do it well and keep adding value along the way, they do very, very well. And the reason being is because when those sellers are coming up in a neighborhood, and it's essentially like digitally door knocking. Facebook's going out there knocking on these doors, these leads are coming in, they're taking you up on your initial value, you're identifying where they are. So when you add in additional traditional marketing like mail outs or drop bys or whatever it may be, or gifts that you're going to be leaving for, you're only approaching those people in that neighborhood that have already raised their hand and said, hey, I'm interested in learning more about selling my home. And if you stay close and add value, you also have a huge advantage. You're getting to that seller early in front of a lot of other real estate agents. We all know the stats. 70% of people are going to work with the first agent that they meet that shows them value. If you're that agent and you're playing that long game, you're going to win over and over and over and over again. It's an incredibly powerful strategy to getting early in front of the sellers. In fact, this other strategy I'm going to show is awesome, but the only disadvantage sometimes is that sometimes there's a realtor already involved in the process. There's almost never a realtor involved in this process. So if you're playing the long game, you're really playing to grow want to grow your business significantly over the next few years, this is a strategy that you don't want to lose out on. You want to have this included in with this other strategy as well. So this is the second part. And I'll actually include a link below in this video if you want to go through and actually see how this entire funnel works. If you want to speed up the process, what is it that most sellers are looking for before they sell their home? It's where they want to move, right? Like they want to see a list of properties. So the irony is that a lot of sellers are also buyers. And some agents really struggle with this because we say to them, listen, we're gonna build a list for you of buyers, but we're gonna specifically design the campaign to attract sellers. And they say, no, I don't want any buyers. I just want sellers. And it doesn't really make any sense because most of these sellers are also buyers. In fact, they even say sometimes, I don't want a seller that needs to buy a property because I won't be able to find them property, so I won't be able to sell their home. And that makes no sense at all because you're never going to get that listing then if you can't help them buy something else. So these sellers, one of the biggest concerns they have is where am I going to move? Where's the list of properties in the specific neighborhood that I can find? Basically, I want to find a home that's going to make sense for me, especially in a hot market. The moment they list the property, it's sold, and you get those two ends. So really, going after buyers, all of the campaigns that we run, about 60% of the leads that come in or more have a home to sell. So if it's designed correctly, this is one of the most powerful campaigns that you can run. Now, you're not going after just sometimes you run after buyers and you go, hey, I want to run a foreclosure list or something. That's not going to attract sellers. So it has to be the right campaign. And then the other component of the campaign is you go for the ask. So you provide the value. So you typically target neighborhoods where people might be moving up. You got a family. They're looking for another home to buy, maybe one with a bigger yard. So you design the campaign specifically attracting people that that are most likely to have a home to sell when they move to the second home. And the second thing is you go for the ask. So right within the funnel, you ask them if they have a home to sell. And you can let them know. There's so many great strategies where you can say, listen, I'm working with a lot of buyers in this neighborhood. If you have a home to sell, I can get you some information or probably a buyer before anyone else. There's a lot of clever marketing that you can do around that campaign, but you can dramatically shorten the time because you're basically pulling out the sellers that are most serious today. So I would do both. That's what we really recommend. Have this campaign. This campaign is going to bring in the sellers today. You're going to start some great conversations. You're going to pick up some buyers too. If you have a buyer's agent you want to work with, great. If you work with buyers yourself, fantastic. That's no problem. You're going to pick up some really good buyers in this campaign, especially if you're designing it around a neighborhood that you actually love to sell homes in anyways. And then when you want to farm a specific neighborhood, or you can run these even in the same neighborhood, this is going to go after your long-term sellers. You're going to make sure that you're the real estate agent that's getting out in front of them before anyone else, and you're going to win 70% of those listings. In fact, another stat is just that 40% of all out of all clients have found their realtor online. So if you don't run these two, you're missing on almost 50% of every single seller or buyer that you're going to get in front of by just not having campaigns that are running, getting in front of your audience, and specifically on Facebook. Because when you run these two campaigns, your brand is going to be front and center. So doesn't even matter if somebody doesn't click through, every person that sees your ad, you're just being branded. There's realtors everywhere, and that you're going to get that mind share, and you're going to own one of those top 3 spots in their mind of any realtor that they're looking to get value from in the future. Plus, of course, you can be building up a massive database of emails, addresses, phone numbers, people that you can stay in contact with over a long period of time. So even the leads that aren't ready today in either one of these funnels, you can stay close to, you can add more and more value, obviously different elements of value around the neighborhood. You might be take a new listing, quickly showcase that new listing, send it out and say, I just recently listed a new property in this neighborhood. It might be a listing that just sold so fast. Do a quick article or a video on why that property sold so fast. Send that out to your list. You've got this database of buyers and sellers that you can engage with on an ongoing basis. So hope you found this video helpful. I'll include the links below if you want to actually go through some of those funnels yourself and see how they work. And yeah, happy to, hope you found this valuable.